Hello everyone, this is Warren Blade. Today I'd like to discuss something that comes up frequently when people talk about buying an Emerson knife or they talk about the Emerson brand, which is, are Emerson knives overpriced? And to come to my conclusion, and maybe to influence yours, I did some math. These are my scrap sheets of calculations. And came up with a rough estimate of what the unit price of a knife is. Now, this isn't going to be exact because I don't know some of his extraneous factors that inevitably come up when you run a business, let alone a business in a state like California where there is more regulation than some of the other states have. I also am going to kind of ballpark the sizes of materials based on the information I could find online. I'm sure being a larger company, he buys his steel, his titanium, his G10, and his screws and other little parts in bulk. But just for the purposes of this video, we'll ballpark it based on estimates I found when I did a basic internet search and came up with some quotes on various materials. So the first thing to look at is labor. If you look at this picture, you can see Emerson's employees. He has about 30 of them working in his Los Angeles, California shop. California's minimum wage is $10.50 per hour. And I'm just going to hope Emerson's not a jerk and that his employees make about, say, $20 an hour across the board. I'm also going to estimate it takes about 2 hours worth of human interaction to make a knife. So that's everything from putting basic materials and machines, grinding blades, assembling handles, putting on the pocket clip, putting them in the boxes, entering them in the database, or distributing them out to the various retailers that Emerson sells to. So you figure that's about $40 for labor. Now we go to materials. The first thing to consider is 154 cm steel, which if you look here, you can see the piece of steel that I found as an example and its dimensions. And this piece of steel is $156.94. If you consider that he would make, say, a bunch of 2-inch thick by 4-inch long knife blanks out of that, dividing that piece by 16, you figure he's spending about $9.81 per blank. Moving on to G10, you can see from this picture the dimensions of this piece of G10. It would make about 11 knife scales as far as scale blanks, and you'd need obviously 2 scales, one left and one right, to make a knife. So if you divide the $14 cost of that piece of G10 by 11, it comes out to about $1.27 per scale blank. You'd need 2 of those, so you're at $2.54. Then you have the titanium liners. You're going to need 2. If you look at this picture, you can see the dimensions of this piece of titanium. If you were going to cut that up to accommodate 2-inch by 5-inch pieces, you're going to yield about 6 liner blanks per piece of titanium. And if you divide that $61 cost by 6, it's $10.17 per blank and $20.34 per pair. Then we have to consider the screws, which if you look at this knife, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 1 in there, 10. Some Emersons have more, some Emersons have less. It depends on the knife. If you look at this source of screws, they are charging $176.28 for 4,000 screws. So you're charging about 44 cents for that set of 10 screws. Then we have to consider miscellaneous parts. So miscellaneous parts would be things like thumb discs, standoffs, pivot screws, and the spring steel for the pocket clip. Those are your miscellaneous parts. I'm just going to throw a number out there. We'll say it costs about $3 for all of that to add that onto the knife. Then you figure you have packaging. Basic laminated cardboard box with a plastic bag on the inside. It's about 50 cents. Then I considered something like marketing and web design. So that's anything from making the catalog to designing how these boxes look to updating and promoting his website and brand. Things like that, I'm going to say it's $3 per knife if you divided that cost. Then you have machinery and investment. So if you look at this picture of Emerson's shop, you can see all his machines. I figure some of those machines, they're older, some of them are newer. They're constantly replacing certain parts in those machines, like the belts on grinders. I'm sure there's other parts that in CNC machines and cutters that just, it's part of use, they get replaced. You figure between buying the machines and updating them, it's about $5 a knife. Lastly, you have to consider there's going to be legal fees and taxes and other things that I call compliance items. That's about $10. I'm going to make that number high because it's the state of California and just say $10 per each knife to deal with the nuisance of compliance. So you total up all these numbers I've thrown out there, and it comes up to about $94.63 per knife. Okay, so you have a $95 knife. Now, where we get into whether these knives are overpriced or not, yeah, there's what you feel you're getting for it, which a lot of people are going to feel ripped off right about now if I say it costs $95 to make an Emerson knife and he's charging $250, and a dealer is, say, charging $220. But then you have to look at profit margins, which I'm not a businessman, so I have no idea what kind of profit margin he needs to stay afloat or stay interested in making the knives. I also don't necessarily know what profit margin the other major companies make. So we'll just go off of the numbers and a rough estimate that I have and then talk about that. So if you consider Emerson sells these for about $250 across his product line, some knives are more, some are less. He's making about $155 on every knife for a profit margin of 163%. If you consider a dealer getting it for $220 and then you subtract that $95 cost, you're left with $125. Subtract $50, which we're just going to say is what the dealer profits off of it. And then that remaining $75 is sent back to Emerson. If he makes $75 on every knife he sells through a dealer, he's getting a 79% profit margin off of it. Okay, so is this knife overpriced? We went over profit margins. He's getting around 160 on the high end to around 80% on the lower end. And I don't think that's super high of a profit margin considering some other businesses are getting 1,000% profit margins when they make their product overseas somewhere for pennies on the dollar. Now, then there's the idea that you're getting a $95 knife for $200. That just ticks people off. In that respect, it does seem like the knife is somewhat overpriced, and I would tend to agree that Emerson Knives, if they cost $95 to make and he's making over 100% profit, are marginally overpriced knives. I don't think that they're massively overpriced. I would say that they're probably, if you consider full MSRP, and Emerson is overpriced by about $80 to $90. And if you consider retail pricing, I'd say it's around $50. So you take $50 off of a $220 knife and you're squarely at $170. Maybe if you sold it for $180, that would seem more fair given the materials and the profit margins. But I'd love to know what you guys think about this. And I plan on doing more of these videos in the future with other brands so we can kind of compare them based on my math. And it'll be interesting to see, all right, well, Emerson Knives seem like they're a little on the overpriced side and the profit margin is high. But what will the profit margins for companies like Gerber, Spyderco, and maybe some other little random company look like compared to Emerson? So until then, thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I'll have another video coming out soon. I think I'm going to do Benchmade next, so you're forewarned.